Buffzone.com. My name is Kyle Ringo. I'm the CU beat writer for the Daily Camera newspaper. With me is veteran sports columnist Neill Woelk.
And one thing I can guarantee you today, folks, is that neither one of us will be the starting quarterback for the Buffaloes this weekend against Arizona State. Kyle, who is the starting quarterback for the Buffaloes?
Neill, Coach Dan Hawkins says it's going to be Bernard Jackson from this point out until Bernard proves he's not the man for the job. This time last week, though, he was saying that James Cox was going to be the starter against Colorado State. Then he sprung the Bernard Jackson surprise on everybody by sending Bernard out to start the game. Bernard drove the team down the field for an opening touchdown, but didn't have much success from that point on.
You know, obviously Bernard Jackson's drawback right there in that game was the passing game. As soon as Sonny Lubick figured out that he couldn't throw the ball proficiently, he loaded up the line of scrimmage. He had a blitz package in there on almost every down, and Colorado's passing game almost disappeared, and thus the running game disappeared. Kyle, can they make Bernard Jackson a proficient passer in the span of a week?
I don't think they can do it in a week. I think they can do it over the course of a season, and I think that could bode well for next year. But in the span of a week, it's a pretty tall order. They're working with Bernard on everything from his mechanics to the right reads to, knowing what plays he's supposed to go where with the ball.
And put in 8 or 10, 15 good passing plays that will at least keep the defense honest. My belief is that they will improve the running game too, because the running game really struggled last week against Colorado State. And right now, I think that's what they have to work on is finding the package that will use Bernard Jackson right and still be able to keep a defense honest.
Yeah, I don't know how you do that unless you start to take some chances down the middle of the field and deep in the passing game, which they weren't really willing to do against Colorado State. Most of the passes Bernard threw were fairly easy to complete. They were to the wide receivers in the flat, to the running backs, out on the periphery. But what they really need to do to challenge defenses is get Bernard comfortable throwing down the middle of the field and taking chances deep.
What you're saying, Kyle, is they had a safe package for him. They were limiting the options that Bernard Jackson had because they didn't want him throwing an interception. He had thrown some interceptions in the scrimmages. He hadn't read the defenses very well. So when they came out with him, they tried to make the passes as safe as possible and limit the chance for mistakes. I think they have to expand that a little bit this week. I think they have to go to a deep passing game. Like you said, they did that against Montana State. James Cox threw the ball downfield. It kept Montana State at least on their toes for a little while. I think they can do that this week if they can come up with just a few plays that they can go deep and stretch the defense a little bit. That will also open up the running game.
The positive side of having Bernard back there at quarterback is that they have something that they haven't had in a long time here, and that's somebody who is very, very good at running the football, Neil.
He's an extremely mobile kid, and he's got great instincts when he's running the football. And you saw that in the first drive last weekend. Now, if they can continue that next week against Arizona State, I think the offense will take another step forward. I know it's hard for people to measure the progress of this team in little steps, but I think that's what they're going to have to look for.
Yeah, I think Bernard's only going to get better as time goes on.
And we'll see about that next week. Thanks for joining us on Buffzone.